So the bottom line is I left that tournament in 2014 with my arm injured. I couldn't stretch my arms and I could barely walk because I kind of like forced my knee after 4 weeks of surgery, you know, like. So for like almost 2 weeks, I was in New York City. I was having a hard time to walk. I couldn't stretch my arm and I was still teaching jiu-jitsu. Like how jiu-jitsu life is. You always think you can do more than you can. Marcelo actually was very nice. He was like, man, if you're injured, don't even need to teach. I was like, no, I can't teach. Like, I don't want to be doing nothing all day long. So those days I start thinking like, man, what am I doing? Like, if I get injured, I can barely work. Like, and I'm very vulnerable to get injured because I'm competing in the highest level. Like. Then it's one of those coincidences in life. Like on that week, exactly that week, Michael Zanga, who is my business partner today, wrote to me offering a deal to make an instructional video. But I had already made a deal with another company that was just like about to sign. And then I was like, man, I have this other deal here already and I'm about to sign. And I think I'm not going to be able to do it this time. And then he was like, man, don't worry about that. So I'm a huge fan of you. I play half guard. That's all I do, half guard and over under. So let's organize one seminar here in Boston. And then you come here and you teach and I learn from you anyways. I'm like, okay, that sounds good. And then another coincidence, like at that time, my wife would go with me for every seminar. For that specifically one, she didn't go. So then Michael said like, hey, as your wife is not coming, instead of staying in a hotel, do you want to stay in my house? And then we do a private in the morning before the seminar in the basement of my house that I have met area, blah, blah. I was like, yeah, man, sure, let's do it. And then I went there, he took me for dinner. And then when we got home, Michael is that type of guy that he's probably like the smartest person I ever met in my life. And he's the vision, like he's the, he sees things that people don't see. That's how I describe him. Like he's that type of guy. And he was showing me what he did in his life, like the business that he did. And most of those businesses were based on online marketing. But again, he's the vision guy. So he didn't know how to do the technical stuff of the online marketing, but he knew how to use it. And then he started showing me that. And then he started telling me, he was like, Bernardo, the only reason I know you is not because you're a world champion. I had no idea that you were world champion. The only reason I know you is because I watched one YouTube match between you and DJ Jackson. And he's one of the toughest guys to get swept from halfway, in my opinion, because he's a wrestler, he's short, he's crazy good. And you swept him like multiple times and this and that. So all I want to tell you here is that, for example, if it was not that YouTube video, I would not know who you are. And then I started thinking, I was like, man, how many people have no idea of my work, of my job, because I'm not exposed to it enough, Like,
sure.
I'm just winning the worlds, but who follows the world championship is this amount of people, Like it's this amount of people, it's not too many. So then I that got stuck in my mind, And then Michael was like, Bernard, if I was you, I would promote yourself more on YouTube, on Facebook, on this and that, blah, blah. And then I told Michael, I was like, man, I know barely how to turn on the computer. Like, I think the maximum that I know how to do is, and the life that I was having when I was living in New York City, I was very unhappy because I was teaching jiu-jitsu lessons. I was training jiu-jitsu. But man, you know how is the jiu-jitsu schedule, right? It's class at 12 o'clock and class at 6, 7, and 8, for example. So I was training and teaching like 3-4 classes per day. I was working hard, training as best as I could. But for example, between 1 p.m. and 6 p.m. and between 10 p.m. and 10 a.m., I had nothing to do. Absolutely nothing, like nothing. Like, so then I was like, man, how much free time I have here that it's completely useless, like, and not useless because I was a professional athlete, so I was wrestling.
Sure. Yeah.
But while I was wrestling, I could learn something too, Like I could lay down on the bed and read a book, lay down on the bed and watch some course. So that was the time that I started. And then I asked Michael some direction. I was like, Michael, I want to learn this stuff, like kind of. And I feel I can be good for the technical stuff that's not your thing. And then Michael started saying, man, read this book. Then if I was you, I would learn more about Facebook in general, organic reach, paid traffic. I would learn more about YouTube, organically, paid traffic, that kind of stuff, like. And then I tried to think like, man, the same dedication that I put in jiu-jitsu, I got to put on this thing, And if I do this, it's my favorite quote, like, shoot for the moon. If you miss, you belong among the stars. So
sure,
man, if I try my best here, even if I don't become the best person in the world, I'm gonna get good enough, like to. And then I also started doing these things. Life started changing, like I started receiving more seminars requests. I started receiving more like people calling me to do super fights and sponsors. And then I was like, there's something here, like. And then I started sharing with Michael all my experience, like I was like, man, my Facebook page went from this amount of followers to this amount of followers. Like now I have over, I don't know, at that time, 30, 40,000. And then Michael started getting some interest on that. I was like, what? What are you doing? I was like, I did this, and this. And then now I built a YouTube channel. It's growing this speed. And then Michael was like, man, Bernardo, there's something there, man. I think we can do something together. And he had already shot some DVDs with some people. And that's how everything started, So that was 2014. And now this is like one of the nicest parts. Like 2015, we already had a successful website, and it was the best year in my athlete career. Like I won the double gold in the Worlds, I won the double gold in the Pan Ams, and the Worlds I did, I think 8 matches and I submitted 7, something like that. I only didn't submit the very, very finals, like the finals of my division. And I truly believe that it's because all that thing that I had from my family in the past, I think I had so much pressure on my shoulders that the jiu-jitsu is the only thing I have in my life, that I would not compete in the best that I could. I would not have the best performance. And then also I had something else in my life besides jiu-jitsu, which was still jiu-jitsu, was a website, but I had something that I was not using, like my athleticism. I was not using my body. I started competing way better, like. But then when 2016 came, was starting to get tough because the website was growing. I was getting busier and busier. My body was beat up. I was not that well motivated anymore. And then I lost the Worlds and I got hurt. I tore my pec that was already injured, and I completely torn. And then I put in my mind, like I was like, man, I'm gonna do this for one more year. It's gonna be my last year. I hope I win the Worlds that year, which was 2017. I lost in the finals. And after that, I'm done. And I'm just going to do this stuff online that I think I can reach way more people. And I can touch way more people, touch way more lives than just like competing and being like selfish and that kind of stuff. And I'm very happy with my career. You always have that feeling that you could have done a little more, but yeah, I'm very happy about everything. So I replied to your question.
Yeah, no.